Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this motivational chat about self love. No matter where you're at on your self love journey, if you're just beginning to want to love yourself, I welcome you here. If you've been on the self love journey for a really long time, I also welcome you here. There is something for everyone. I'm going to begin chatting with you guys while I do some gentle stretching. I invite you guys to join me in that if you feel called to. However, if you're feeling really tender today, I also encourage you to grab a blanket, grab a pillow, and curl up and listen, because that is what we're aiming for today, is gentleness and acceptance of ourselves wherever we are. That is really where the self-love journey begins. I'm going to start with some neck rolls. It's crunchy in there. If you're joining me in the movement today, even if you're not, just tune into your body. Listen to all the crunchy sounds. Feel all the places where you feel tight, without the aim to change it, but just noticing. If you're joining me in the movement, you can stretch your arm out to the side. We're going to bring our left ear to our left shoulder, just stretching out the right side of the neck. If you're a longtime subscriber of this channel, you probably will recognize that this video is quite different from my norm. Art is a big reason why for me. It's a reason that I live. But there's also so much more to life. There's so much more to me, and I felt called to just share a little bit more of my journey, who I am, and how I've gotten to be where I am. I'm really in a season of self-love. I'm gonna do some shoulder rolls. If you're in a season of self-love as well, I just wanted to say I'm so happy for you. This is such a fruitful time. And I think that there does come a time in our lives, maybe we ebb and flow out of it, where we pour out ourselves into other people, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of circumstance, and sometimes just out of love. I feel like I spent a lot of time putting what I really wanted on the back burner, accepting a life that didn't quite feel like mine. Not that it was bad, but just that it wasn't by my design. And I'm in a season now where I'm really considering what it is that I want my life to look like. If I take off all of the pressure and the expectations that I feel from the people around me, even people that I love, whether they're putting those pressures there or whether I'm putting those pressures there, if I allow myself to let go of those pressures, what do I want? Who can I be? So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, one of the most important things for us on our self-love journey is acceptance. We have to be willing to accept wherever we're at. Self-love isn't just, I want this for my life and I'm going to go chase it. It's, I want this for my life and this is where I am. I honor where I am. I love where I am. I'm grateful for where I am. So if you're someone who has been on the self-love journey for a really long time, if you've been on the self-love journey for a really long time, I lost it. What was I even saying? I lost my train of thought. Bum, 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 bum. Let me tune back in. It wasn't a thought that wanted to be shared. Acceptance. Acceptance is everything. You have to be willing to accept where you are. Something that helped me get to a place of deeper acceptance was meditation. And this is like, it's not new information, it's not new advice. I'm just here as a reminder. Meditate. Even if it's just for 5 minutes a day, even if it's not daily, even if you're meditating once a month, just start because it does make such a difference. For me, I started going to group meditations and they're only once a month, but they have made such a profound impact on the way that I'm showing up for myself and on the way that I'm showing up in the world. The theme that keeps returning for me is that the goal of the meditation isn't to fix our problems. The goal of the meditation isn't necessarily to find clarity. And I feel like I was getting hung up on that. I feel like I would go into meditation with the intention of like, I intend for this to create clarity for me, but that's not always the case. And it's great that can happen sometimes if we sit and get quiet, that clarity can find us. But sometimes it's just accepting that we don't know, that we don't know the answers, that we don't have it all figured out. And that's really what's been coming up for me is like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this problem in my life that's been bugging me. I accept that. When we stop searching so much for the answers, life gets like so much sweeter. When we accept and we can be happy in the uncertainty, life is, we're able to find our flow with life. We're able to just kind of flow with the waters. And meditation has been so helpful in like helping me practice that self-acceptance. So if you don't meditate, or if you used to meditate but you've fallen out of it, this is your encouragement, your reminder that it really can be helpful. And if you haven't thought about it in this way, then I encourage you to think of meditation as an acceptance of whatever comes up. If you have pain coming up in your body, which is something that comes up frequently for me, it's just sitting with that. The goal isn't to make the pain go away. Unfortunately, it would be wonderful if we could meditate and all of the pain would dissipate. But the reality is that it doesn't. The meditation makes us learn to be okay in the pain. It gets us out of the mode of trying to fix, to trying to problem solve everything. And so, if you haven't thought about meditation in that way, I would encourage you to think about it in that way and maybe return to it. And there are also so many different types of meditation. So, if just like sitting there like this doesn't work for you, that's totally okay. Get up and do a walking meditation. Notice the way that your feet feel as you're walking on the ground. I also want to just give a shout out to my meditation teacher because I feel like this is something that she has really brought to the community is this idea of like there's so many different types of meditation and keep trying them on until you find one that works for you. So if sitting there and just being in your body works for you, that's great. If paying attention to your breath works for you, that's great. If walking works for you, that's great. If doing the dishes and just bringing all of your present awareness to the dishes, to the way that the water feels on your hands, to the soap, all of it. Meditation is a practice in being present and being in awareness and being accepting of whatever it is that is there. So do it. I really can't encourage you enough to begin that practice. If you've been on your self-love journey for a really long time, you might be in a place where you're like ready to make real shifts in your life. You're ready to take action. But if you're just starting out on your self-love journey, my guess would be that you're probably not ready to take too much action right now. You probably just need to come into a place of acceptance first. And that's really where I feel like it always starts for me, is just accepting where I'm at. You can't get from point A to point B if you don't know where point A is. If you're so lost in the sauce and focused on point B that you don't even see where you're at on the map, then you're not ever going to be able to get there. You have to know where you're starting from. And you have to accept where you're starting from. That's why on every map that you ever see, like in a theme park or a hiking trail or whatever, there's always a "you are here" sign. It tells you where you're starting. Because if not, then how do you orient yourself to your end goal? Something to think about. Acceptance is the most important part of self-love, self-acceptance. So don't forget that. But I did want to share with you guys some practices that I do for self-loving. So one of those is movement, which I'm doing right now, and just allowing the body to speak to you. So I think that there's definitely a place for following instruction. I love doing the classes and following that structure, but it can be a really deep act of self-love to find your own flow, to listen to the body. It's like, oh, my shoulders are feeling tight. It feels nice to kind of stretch them backwards like this. It feels nice to stretch my arms up like this. It feels good to circle out my wrists. It feels good to wiggle back and forth. Just noticing what is present in your own body. This is an act of self-love. This is how we can come into embodiment. This is how we can come into present awareness. And really, that's a beautiful place to be, because everything happens in the here and now. The future is a place that we never get to. The past is a place that we never were. We're always here, right here. It's the only thing that is ever happening. So if you're joining me in the movement, then just allow your body to move however it feels good. And if you're not joining me in the movement, maybe start to invite a little movement that feels good. Maybe it feels good and right to just be in complete stillness. I totally get that. Whatever feels right for you is what you're going to do right now. If what feels right for you is to shut this video off and go do something else, like, I accept that and go do it. If what feels right for you is to continue listening and gaining insight, please stay with me. So, self-love practices. So, we've talked about self-acceptance. We've talked about movement. We've talked about meditation. Let's talk a little bit about diet. This is, I feel, kind of a sensitive subject for a lot of people. I feel like a lot of us don't really have the best relationship with food, and honestly, that used to be me too. So, for a little bit of reference, I've always had stomach issues. And when I was in high school, I started breaking out on my face pretty bad, and I felt really embarrassed by it. I didn't love myself through it, which I think in high school it's a lot harder to do that. But I did not love myself through the acne. I just wanted the acne to go away and I wanted to fix it. So it's really interesting that that's kind of where the problem started. I was prescribed antibiotics for the acne, and I had an allergic reaction that ended up with me being in the hospital because I had hives breaking out on my knees and my elbows, and I felt like a tightness in my throat. Felt like my throat was closing up. So I went to the hospital and they gave me steroids. And after that experience, my gut really became messed up. And I think that I severely impacted my microbiome by taking the antibiotics. I struggled for a really long time with extreme stomach discomfort. I would get really intense cramps. And like I said, I didn't have the best stomach before this, anyways. So this just exacerbated the problem. So I was having intense stomach cramps. I was bloated 24/7, and not just like normal bloat, but like I felt like really distended, super uncomfortable. And my parents started doing some research and came to the conclusion that I might have candida overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth in my stomach. And so I went on this like pretty extreme diet. Extreme for where I was at that point in my life. Up until that point, I had pretty much eaten whatever I wanted. I didn't have the worst diet, but I definitely wasn't the best either. And I went from that to cutting out all gluten, all dairy, all refined sugar, as well as a few other random things. It was extremely difficult for me at the time, and I was also doing this while I was transitioning into being in college on my own, living on my own for the first time. I managed to keep up with the diet for a little while. I lost a ton of weight, and I think I was stressed underneath the surface, and I would manage that by eating. And it became this really unhealthy thing where I was restricting myself really, really hard, and food became this really stressful thing for me. It was hard to find things that I could eat. It was hard to cook for myself. I lived in a dorm. Like I it was challenging. I was trying to do that as an act of self-love in order to heal myself, but I was restricting myself really hard. And then I would get overwhelmed with emotion and I would emotionally eat and I would binge and just like eat whatever I could find. And so it became this really unhealthy pattern of eating really healthy and being really rigid with myself, and then bouncing into this space of binge and eating all of the sugar and all of the sweet things, and then feeling so absolutely sick to my stomach. I would just like eat so much that I would feel horrible. And after a while, I realized that that wasn't working, and I was still doing this dance of like back and forth of cutting out all these things out of my diet and then going really hard in the opposite direction because I had restricted myself so hard. And I think it was an important lesson for me to learn. I've come to a place now in my life where I allow myself to eat in moderation. I aim for a healthy diet, but I'm not restricting myself from eating something that has a little bit of sugar in it. I've found what works for my body and what doesn't through a lot of experimentation. Like, I know that gluten does not work for my body, but I allow myself to have a little bit of like cheese here and there. I've chosen to eat primarily organic, but I'm still going to go out to eat and I'll get a frozen pizza every now and then. That balance has been so, so, so important for me. And I think it goes back to that idea of self-acceptance, of accepting where you're at. If being really rigid doesn't work for you, accept that. I think it doesn't for most people. If eating junk food doesn't work for you, it doesn't make you feel good, we also have to accept that. I think most of us want to eat healthy, want to have a healthy relationship with food, a healthy relationship with our bodies. But we really have to come into that place of self acceptance. We have to love ourselves where we're at first. Food shouldn't be a battle, it should be a way that we love ourselves. And sometimes loving ourselves looks like eating a salad. And sometimes loving ourselves looks like eating a piece of cake. And we can hold both of those things. And I want everyone out there to recognize that loving yourself doesn't always look like eating a salad. Loving yourself is allowing yourself to enjoy life, and enjoying life. I'm going to come back to this point, but I just want to like place that there right now. Enjoying yourself is such an act of gratitude that has a giant ripple effect. But we really need to enjoy our food. We need to enjoy the experience of eating and enjoy how we feel in our bodies too. And I've gone through ebbs and flows and ups and downs on my journey with food. I've gone through the emotional eating, I've gone through binge eating, I've gone through healthy eating, but not having a healthy relationship with my body and with food. So I was eating healthy, but the relationship itself wasn't healthy. I was guilting myself into eating healthy, and that's not the way that we're going to do this. That's not it. If you want to eat healthy, you have to love yourself into eating healthy. You have to want to eat the vegetables because you know it's going to feel good in your body. You have to want to eat, the fruit smoothie in the morning because it's going to feel good in your body, because you know that it's nourishing you, because you know that it's filled with vitamins and minerals that you really need to thrive, because it's going to make you glow. We have to love ourselves into eating right. But so often we get caught in this trap of guilting ourselves into eating right, of shaming ourselves into eating right, of thinking that we're bad if we have, fast food, or thinking that we're bad if we eat a pizza or whatever it is. We shame ourselves, and we shame ourselves into eating right. And that is why diets do not usually work. It's why people bounce back after a diet, is because often people are doing it from a place of self-shame rather than a place of self-love. So I want you to reflect on that. If you struggle with your relationship with food, if you struggle with diet, what is your relationship with yourself like? What is your relationship with food like? Work on the relationship first before you start restricting yourself. That is all. Okay, so I want to go back to the point that I was making about pleasure. Pleasure is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to ourselves and to the world around us. We are taught that pleasure is bad. We are taught that to enjoy ourselves is sinful. In so many different ways, we're taught that pleasure is temptation and we should resist. We are taught that pleasure is not necessary, like it's not productive, I guess. I've met a lot of people with this mindset, and I had this mindset at one point in time as well. But something clicked in my brain when I was in my early 20s, and I realized that to enjoy something was the greatest gift that I could give. So let's give an example. Oh, okay, I need to do some more movement. I was getting lost in my talks and I lost my movement. So we're going to stretch here. Pleasure. To gain pleasure from something is to say thank you for it. If someone gets, okay, let's put it this way so you can see it from like the opposite perspective. Let's say you get someone a gift. You get someone a gift and it's something that they can use to love themselves. Let's say you get someone a spa package. You buy your friend a spa package because you want them to enjoy themselves, you want them to be pampered. Let's say this friend says thank you for the spa package, but they're like, oh, like you really didn't need to do that. I don't need this kind of attitude. It's not going to feel very good for the person trying to give the gift. Like, right? Like, I'm trying to give you something that I want you to have. I'm trying to give you an experience that I know you want to, but you're not allowing yourself to have it. On the other hand, if we give someone a gift of the spa package and they go and they use the spa package and then they're like, oh my God, that was the best spa visit ever. Thank you so much. I enjoyed every second of it. I was in complete bliss. That was amazing. You're going to be like, you're going to feel good. You're going to be like, yes, I helped someone have this beautiful, blissful experience. I helped someone experience pleasure in their bodies. Like, yes, I am so grateful that you got to have that experience, right? If we give a gift to somebody and they experience pleasure, that's like the biggest thank you that we could possibly ever get. It's the same thing with food. Let's say we eat a piece of cake. I'm going to use that example. We eat a piece of cake and then we feel guilty for it. We feel gross. We feel like we shouldn't have eaten it. We're shaming ourselves for eating the cake. Leads to bad feelings, and bad feelings ripple out. But here's the other thing. Sometimes if you do that, if you eat the piece of cake and you're shaming yourself the whole time, you're like eating fast because you feel like you have to get rid of all of it. Like you're not even fully in the experience. You're just like, I feel bad that I'm doing this and I'm doing this, and you eat the whole thing. Eat the whole cake. Let's go to the other scenario, which is that you eat the cake and you allow yourself to enjoy and savor every single bite of that cake. You take a bite, you're like, it's so moist, it's so yummy. I'm just like having the best experiences eating this cake, like, I love this cake. If you go into that cake eating experience like that and you savor every second of it, like this is the experience I've had. I might take like 3 bites and then I'm satisfied because that was such a blissful experience. That was so good. Thank you. My pleasure is like, thank you for this cake. This cake was amazing. If you do that instead, it is such a gift, and those positive feelings ripple out. That pleasure ripples out. So I encourage you to feel the pleasure in whatever you're doing, no matter what it is. If you are, maybe you feel bad, like I've experienced this. I feel bad sometimes for painting because I have other responsibilities. And I'm like, I should be doing the other responsibilities that I have. I shouldn't be painting. And then I don't enjoy the painting process as much. So I'm like guilting myself. If I sit down to paint in it and I'm like, yes, I feel so good. I love what I'm doing. I'm like having the time of my life. It feels so good to create. Like, thank you, thank you. I'm just like in the flow and it feels so good. And then I walk out of that experience and I am smiling and I'm happy, and that ripples out onto the people around me. So say thank you with your pleasure. If you're going to lay in the sun, if you're fully enjoying that, if you're fully enjoying the experience of the sun on your skin, it's like saying thank you. Thank you, sun. Thank you so much for your warmth. Thank you so much for this day. I accept you. I feel you. I'm so grateful to be in this experience. So, pleasure. Yes. Allowing yourself to experience pleasure. So, we've talked about self acceptance. We've talked about meditation. We've talked about movement. We've talked about diet. We've talked about what did we just talk about? Pleasure. Yeah. I think it kind of like I said, I think it all ties back into that acceptance, allowing ourselves to be happy, allowing ourselves to experience pleasure, Accepting ourselves wherever we're at, and I'll tie it back together with that. If you're not in a place where you can feel happy, you do not have to. Like, if you're not in a place where you can experience pleasure, that's totally okay. Accept yourself in that. If you're mad, allow yourself to be mad. If you're sad, allow yourself to be sad. All of these emotions that we feel are valid. And the more that we try to make ourselves feel something other than what we feel, the more that we're going to stay stuck. If you really want to love yourself, you have to accept wherever you're at. If you're not in a place where you can be exuberant, where you can be joyful, it's not going to be self-love to force yourself to be there. We can't go from being in grief to being, I'll say not typically, we can't typically go from being deep in grief to being elated and in bliss. But we might be able to go from being in deep grief to being sad. We might be able to go from being sad to feeling neutral. We might be able to go from feeling neutral to feeling content. We might be able to go from being content to feeling happy. Our emotions exist on a spectrum. We can't expect ourselves to go from being like angry to being in love. So if you don't feel like you're at the point of self-love, that's okay. Maybe you can be at the point of self-neutrality. Maybe you can feel neutral about your body image if that's something that you struggle with. Maybe you can be neutral about your job and where you're at in your life financially, where you're at in your life and your relationships. You don't necessarily have to be grateful for everything. You don't have to be happy with everything. But if you're not feeling good about it, can you feel just like this much better about it? Can you get to a neutral place? I think we often guilt ourselves into trying to feel the opposite of what we're feeling when really it happens in baby steps. If we can get to a place of feeling neutral, then that's a wonderful step in a positive direction. So keep that in mind as you're on your self-love journey. Take baby steps. Accept yourself wherever you're at, one step at a time. I truly hope that this chat was helpful for you, fruitful for you in some way. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful that I can share my thoughts with you guys. And if this resonated for you, please let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you feel called to. I love to invite others into this journey with me. If you've been on this channel for a while and you liked this kind of content, definitely let me know that too. There will be more art content coming as well, but I also feel like I'm going to start to integrate a little bit more of these other aspects of my life because they're feeling rich and full right now. So I want to share that. Thank you so much for being here. Sending you guys so many blessings. I love you. And I will see you soon, buddy. Mama sit there. Mama scoot over just a little bit. Hi, sweet boy. Hi, sweet boy. There's a good boy. There's a good boy.